Oh, hey, do you really even care about the market? Like, should I even be talking about it anymore? Like, what should we really be talking about? Hey, what's up, Tom? Anyway, Tom, by the way, from Digital One Printing, over here at 388 Carlisle. He's a gem. Anyway, so like, I don't even know what to even talk about anymore because, like, I've decided that I'm going to put my, wish.com economics degree away and really let the professionals do their thing, but also really shed some light on what's happening in real estate conversations out there right now. And in my opinion, like the biggest problem right now are realtors thinking that they are smarter than the Bank of Canada, and saying, "Well, if interest rates are what's contributing to inflation, let's just stop raising interest rates, and there won't be any inflation." And like with their full chest kind of saying this sort of thing. And yeah, although, higher mortgage interest, results in higher rent and cost of living and all that stuff contributes to higher inflation, but like it's so much more complicated than that. And like the ego and like the balls it takes, like, and listen, I've done this before too, to stand behind such an incorrect assessment is kind of bothering me a little bit. And there's just so much of that noise out there right now where, like, you have to understand the Bank of Canada's job is to create pain. Like, it has to hurt. Like, this is our fault. In order for the Bank of Canada to have deemed what they're doing a success, they have to fuck some shit up. And there's going to be a lot of damage from people that are extremely over leveraged who just cannot support massive increases in their monthly costs. Like in this week's article, let's call it an article. I wrote a fucking article. In this week's article, I talk about my own situation and mistakes that I made over 2020 and 2021, kind of riding on the high of those successes, when in reality, I should have been grateful for that, bump in business and been in saving mode versus, moving out of our condo, buying a big house, buying an investment property, like making all of the mistakes that I told my clients not to be making during that time. Like, I've been an advocate of buying real estate for a very long time. I still am, and I always will be. I think it's an amazing tool to help fund a very successful retirement. And it's like really hard to argue with that. But some people do, which is super weird. But overall, it's a great tool to fund a great retirement, but not to the detriment of your current lifestyle to the point where it becomes a massive problem. And, I'm going to, like, our family is going to be able to manage a 67% bump in our mortgage payments and, closing on an investment property next month. I mean, first of all, that was bought in 2018. It just happens to be closing at the very wrong time. And of course, there's no occupancy. Like, I don't know if you know condos that much, but when you buy a pre-construction condo, there's usually a phase of occupancy where you move into the unit or your renter moves into the unit, and there's like a 3 to 4, 5, 6, 7 month period where you wait for the condo to register with the city of Toronto to actually become a condo, and then that's when you need a mortgage and stuff like that. Like when that happens, so. Anyway, but for this particular condo, it's going straight to that final closing, meaning there's no occupancy period. So anyway, so that's happening. And then the investment property that we picked up last March, all of those are going to be a strain right now because everything is so expensive. But back to the whole Bank of Canada comment, like, this has to break people for it to work because humans naturally won't stop spending or won't stop contributing to inflation if there's money there and if there's credit available. So the main sort of goal of these tightening measures is to, number one, limit the amount of credit that's available, and number two, create a situation where people physically just cannot make purchases en masse to be able to bump up the prices of various goods and services, because as much of, as weak as us humans are, corporations understand that, and the companies that we rely on understand that, and they will take advantage of those excess demand situations. So we as humans cannot be trusted to regulate this. That's why the Bank of Canada exists. Of course, they are humans too, to basically create some pain in the market, to create a situation where people physically actually cannot make these purchases. They cannot go out and take huge mortgages. They cannot over leverage themselves to the point where they're literally one bad decision away from homelessness. Like, that's the environment that's trying to be created. And I wish that I kind of was more aware, or not aware, I was always aware, but I was like willfully blind to that idea that that was the result. That's when things stop. Things don't just stop, getting harder because we feel like it's hard enough. It's got to get to the point where some people actually break, where unemployment actually increases. People don't have the jobs to spend the money to drive these prices up. Like, these things are the things that are the goals of these tightening measures. So, like, keeping an eye on that, we have to understand that the city of Toronto and Canada as a whole has not yet seen enough pain. So that pain is currently on its way. And what does that mean for Toronto real estate? Right now, as people are feeling the pain, because people have not felt the pain, they've just felt the sentiment, but now they're actually feeling the pain. What's going to happen now? I mean, you would expect more listings to hit the market. And we're seeing that with condos. We have been seeing that with houses. But for the first week in a very long time, in about 5 weeks, we do not have a pile on of listings week over week. And of course, I'm driving over the bumpiest roads now trying to make this fucking video. Anyway, so we don't have a massive flood of listings this week, which is awesome. Because if we did have another week of these listings in a row, then that would create, a pretty big problem for the end of summer, especially as, the idea of another rate increase in September becomes more real. So right now, it's not real. Right now, the banks have priced in a 50-50 chance of that happening. Whether it actually happens or not, we'll see. I'm not going to, tell you whether it is or it isn't. I'm kind of done with that game of trying to predict with a crystal ball. We know what's going to happen in the next few months because there are going to be people that have to sell their homes. There are going to be people that are in trouble. That is a very, very real thing. There is a great opportunity for buyers that have cash right now to be buying investment properties that, rookie or over-leveraged investors cannot hold on to. There's a lot of that on the market right now. Duplexes, triplexes, there's a lot of that on the market right now. What is not on the market right now en masse are high quality houses and condos for people to buy and live. That is not available right now to the point where prices of those things are being greatly affected. Because we are still seeing, let's not get things twisted yet, because in the market right now, there are multiple offers on a very regular basis. In fact, over 70% of the houses that sold last week in the urban communities sold in multiple offers. Meaning, they were positioned for a bidding war and they sold that way. Not all of them did and not all of them will. Oh my God, would you just go already, man? Jesus. Anyway, sorry. Not all of them did and not all of them will, which is a very important conversation to have with sellers right now, is that you could very well do amazing with your house listing. You could just absolutely crush it and take home a ton of cash, or not. And sometimes we can, pretty accurately predict which one of those scenarios will happen depending on your property. But more and more, it kind of depends on the week and how buyers are feeling that week, which is why it's super important to work with somebody who understands the market in real time. Hey, we're those people, by the way, the Spring team as a whole. So anyway, let's not forget that despite all of this stuff that's happening, and I think I spoke about this last week in week 176, and this is week 177. It's crazy. We're going to be at 200 weeks soon. Regardless of what's happening in the market, and I think a lot of us get caught up in this interest rate and economics discussion when really people don't move for, as an investment generally. People move because they need to make a lifestyle improvement. They need to move closer to work or whatever it is that I've talked about 10 billion times on these videos. That's why people move, and people will continue to do that. So let's remember that if you're a realtor listening to this, let's not get too caught up in the, sky is falling moment, because the sky is never falling. Let's just remember that as well. There is no situation where the sky is falling. It might be for some people, but not for the market as a whole, especially not in a city like Toronto, we will likely have price adjustments going forward. In my opinion, we're going to give back some of the gains that we made during this unexpected run of end of January to, like, let's say June of this year. Like, there were some gains during that time that I did not expect. If you were watching these videos in 2022, then you would have, you know that I was very clear about the fact that 2023 overall was going to be pretty painful. And I really hate that the market ran at the beginning of this year. It's that positive news on interest rates. Like, people bought on that news, right? And at the end of January, and that, like, kind of messed things up. I think that we would be in a very, interesting position had there been a super aggressive interest rate hike beyond what we already thought was aggressive at that time. But again, these things, it's always hindsight's 2020. It's like, that amazing article by Benjamin Tal about how the, AI systems would handle this type of scenario versus humans. Humans will always overshoot with the increases. Like, whenever you put a human in place here, they're always going to overshoot because undershooting is not an option. If you do not hit inflation targets, this is just going to prolong the situation forever. So you have to understand that, like, overshooting is the only option. When everybody is saying stop, 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 there has to be one more. Because undershooting is not an option for the Bank of Canada. Because I would rather, it's kind of like ripping a Band-Aid off, right? Like when my daughter has an owie on her arm, she just likes to take it off slowly because in her mind, slower means less pain. Nope, that just means more pain for more time. Ripping it off once is like one little ow moment, and then that's what we're doing right now. So anyway, regardless of all of this stuff, people will be buying, people will be selling. So that's what we're here to do. We're here to, help people understand that we understand the market. We know that this is not a time to be taking money out of lines of credit and leveraging yourself like that. Money is not cheap, and it's, going to be harder than you think to get a mortgage right now, but it's possible. If you have any sort of debt, if you owe the government any money, you're just not getting a mortgage right now until all of that is paid off, which is usually the case, but now it's a little bit more strict. So anyway, there's a lot of this nonsense conversation happening right now that puts too much attention on deep economics and too much attention on people that think they know what they're talking about, but they literally have no clue what they are saying, just regurgitating sound bites. So let's just pay attention to where we're getting the news from. In fact, don't even get real estate news from me anymore. If you want to buy and sell real estate, then you need to reach out to the Spring Team. But you should be getting your real estate news from credible economic sources. Even the banks. Like, Benjamin Tal is a great economist, and I talk about him all the time. But like him and all the other banks are going on about how, like, oh, it's too much. Tiff Macklem doesn't know what he's doing with the Bank of Canada. But then that conversation is also quite a bit self-serving because right now banks are being instructed to not be as lenient with borrowers, to not extend amortizations to help out with monthly payments like they have been doing. They've been told to be a lot tighter, and they don't like that because they make less money when that happens. So there's a lot of interesting biased information out there right now. And, I think that if you cut out the noise and focus on the reason why you're making the move in the first place, you're going to have a much easier time getting through whatever the hell is happening right now. I think that, after all of this, there may very well be an increase in September, and that will probably completely halt the market because I know a lot of people are at their absolute breaking point right now. And one more increase, I shouldn't say I know a lot of people. I don't know a lot of people that are at a breaking point. I just know that a lot of people are. And I'm just assuming that they are because based on statistics and population and the percentage of people that are generally over leveraged, there are people that are going to be in trouble with the next hike and they're not going to be able to handle that mortgage payment increase. And we should probably see an increase in listing supply as we head into the dog days of summer and as we head into the fall. When will the things turn around? Could be end of fall, could be winter, but like we've said over and over and over again, things won't turn around until buyers feel absolutely certain that there are no more hikes or whatever it is coming up. And until buyers feel that way, sellers, you're going to have to manage your expectations. You're maybe going to have to take a little bit less money than you hoped for. But what you should not be doing as a seller right now, and we've seen this happen countless times over the past few weeks when our buyers have been they haven't been successfully able to purchase a property even though they were the highest offer because a seller had grander expectations. And honestly, both times that this happened to myself personally, I spoke to the listing agent, and the listing agent was very, very clear. It's like, listen, I told my seller that this is not the right move, that the market is not heading in the right direction for them to be leaning this hard on this unreasonable price that they want. But that's what the seller wanted, and that's what they did. And good for them. Like, stand your ground. And that shows the kind of seller and homeowner we generally have in Toronto. It's, there are for sure over leveraged people. We're not talking about that minority, and it is a minority group. And I'm talking about like in terms of numbers, not, a racial thing. You know what I'm saying? And that is a small group, right? So no question there are going to be people in trouble, but there are a lot more people that aren't going to be in trouble. Will they be feeling the pinch? Yes. Will they be selling their cottages, their extra cars, their other luxury items? 100%. So if you're a buyer of a luxury item or anything like that anytime soon, then for sure you should wait. Those things are going to get cheaper and cheaper and cheaper as we head into a little bit more financial instability and trouble. But like I've said over and over again, people will do whatever they can to hang on to that piece of Toronto real estate. And so far, that's what they're doing. It's what I'm doing, and a lot of other people are doing. And I take a lot of comfort in knowing how we have responded to these things in the past, how buyers have responded to these things in the past, and how they will likely continue to respond to this particular situation in the future. So we'll see what happens. I'll be here every single week, I'm probably going to do these more on the fly versus sitting in my office, because honestly, it's kind of boring in there. If anybody wants to come, needs a place to work, please let me know. Come to the office. But anyway, that's it. So that was week 177. I was actually going to stop this video ages ago. Hopefully I didn't say anything stupid, because I'm not going to edit this stuff. Just going to go. I never edit. It just always goes out. But thanks so much for your attention, and I look forward to carrying on this conversation below or wherever else you see this. Reach out and let's talk. I'm not liking the inactivity in the comment section lately. I want to hear more of your opinions. Ara Memorian from the Raccoon Mobile, whatever you want to call this. See you guys next week. Love y'all. Bye.